CultivatED Marketer, episode 46, building community impact through strategic alignment and communication. What does it take to steward one of the most recognized nonprofit brands? Staying aligned to establish trust and deliver on its mission. Listen now with our guest and hear about this amazing award that will be going to a nonprofit leader. So this episode, we speak with the Ewing Marion Kauffman Foundation Senior Manager of Brand and Strategic Communications, Lacey Graverson. There was a lot there from my overall first impressions was, and again, it goes back to the way we're thinking about this episode. There's some things we really gravitated to was just, I'm so glad we did this episode because I'm such a fanboy of the Kauffman Foundation. And what a gift it is to the city we live in from the standpoint of supporting economic development and opportunity, whether it's in the nonprofit world. And though we're speaking more on the nonprofit side, I'm thinking from an entrepreneurship side as well.
Yeah.
And she was amazing in the way she talked about storytelling being representative of sharing the nonprofit's impact, the entrepreneur's impact. Like, they know they've won, they know they've been successful, they know they've won when the stories of those organizations are able to be shared. And that to me is, I was warm all over being able to be able to talk about that with her and then understand how she goes about it was cool. Mm-hmm. Being able to go to that space and speak to her about what they view as strategic impact and how really going back to the core of their mission was really, really a lot of fun.
Yeah, we have interviewed a lot of really neat guests. And what I liked about interviewing Lacey is it took me back to Valerie. Was it Valerie who lead a very big social media strategy at the Dairy Farmers of America? What I like about both Lacey and Valerie is that they're in-house at a company or an organization. And so it's like they're giving you a glimpse of their workday. You can see what it looks like to be a social media director or a strategic communicator, a brand strategist. And so I really liked her talking about what it looks like to work in communications at the Kauffman Foundation. And the thing that she said that I literally think I did the snappy fingers, which by the way, I think I'm too old to do the snappy fingers. I feel like that's something girls younger than me do, but I'm still going for it. When she started talking about alignment, that got me warm all over, Brent, because I see this all the time in the nonprofit space where you have a visionary leader who's got a lot of ideas, but they don't have a clear direction. And she talks about this. They don't have a clear direction for their team, which means especially for the marketing communicators on the team, they're going to get lost. And it's not because they're bad at their jobs. It's because we can create marketing communication strategies all day, but if it's not tied to a clear goal, a clear vision, a clear plan, it's really going to fall flat. So when she talked about the importance of alignment, I thought that was key. So you can really see inside her brain, inside the work of communications at the Kauffman Foundation, it's all about alignment. And that is what the top tier communicators do. That's when I see someone who's a really strong communicator, it's because they know how to focus on alignment, message discipline. She'll talk about that. I don't want to give it all away, but it was great.
Well, we hit on that early on. Well, one, I want to go back to if Reese Witherspoon can do the snaps, you can do the snaps.
Does she
does the snaps. Oh, yeah. I think.
Oh, well, if she's doing it, I'm snapping.
I think Reese Witherspoon's doing the snapping, so you can do the snaps. And then the other thing we hit on early on was mom as school guidance counselor.
Yes. Career counselor.
Career counselor. And then we hit on early the alignment through the discovery session, which that itself could be an entire episode, is how to do that. And the way you explained that as a job shadow was awesome. It's like, hey, you had a 30-minute job shadow with Lacey. That's perfect.
Yeah.
And then we capstone the whole conversation with, and I don't want to go into all the details because I think we want folks to hear about how freaking amazing this award that the Kauffman Foundation is providing to a leader within our community But the capstone of this thing was the discussion around that award and the impact it's going to have to a nonprofit.
It's incredible.
To a nonprofit here. So it was a really, truly amazing conversation with somebody that clearly cares about not just the craft, but how to think about the craft. And then also within an organization that really is part of the heartbeat of the city. It was a lot of fun.
It was so fun. I hope everybody enjoys it.
Yes. So get into this thing, go through the whole thing. You're going to get to Job Shadow with Lacey. At the end, you're going to get to hear about this award that if you support nonprofits and you're based in the Kansas City region, you need to apply. There's not a question about it. So we're going to include a link in the show notes. But with that, we're going to take you to our conversation with Lacey Graverson. Take care, everybody. Welcome to CultivatED Marketer, where we talk marketing professional development so your garden of opportunity grows. This is Brent Bowen.
And I'm Julie Masson.
And Mr. Matt Tidwell, I think, is out meeting with the dean. I think that's in fact accurate. That's just not me being funny, right, Julia?
I think that's correct. He could not make this interview today.
So Matt's in the world of academia, being an academic. So he's meeting with the dean and not able to join us today, but he's missing out. We've got a wonderful guest. Our guest is very near and dear to the heartbeat of Kansas City. I know this is not just a Kansas City show, but there's Kansas City heartstrings all throughout the show. So our guest is Senior Manager of Brand and Strategic Communication at the Ewing Marion Kauffman Foundation. For nearly 18 years, she has helped shape and steward the foundation's communications and brand presence, partnering across teams to advance strategic priorities and amplify impact. She leads the foundation's brand strategy, providing guidance and oversight to ensure consistency across communication channels, while overseeing signature publications, promotional campaigns, one we're going to get into in detail, and a wide range of digital and print initiatives. She also leads a cross-functional team of designers, video producers, and copy editors, helping bring the foundation's mission and storytelling to life through thoughtful, high-quality communications. We're going to spend a few moments on that as well. Lacey Graverson, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
We are so excited to have you. And what I want to start with is how you got started in marketing and communication. So you have been at the Kauffman Foundation for 18 years, correct?
I have, yes.
Okay, that's a long time. I have been in nonprofit communications for 18 years, and I accidentally fell into it. So I love asking people their origin story. How did you fall into the work of communications and brand work? And what were some of those early experiences that shaped your perspective for what you're doing now as a leader?
Sure. So I fell into it as well. To be honest, I never planned to be in communications. I was dead set. If you asked me in high school or growing up, I was going to be a pediatric oncology nurse. I wanted to be in the healthcare facility. I wanted to, just help others. And then I took a health occupations class in high school, and I was like, oh, this is hard. And there's lives on the line, maybe not healthcare. And so it was great to learn that early. But I went into college and I had no declared major at all. I really liked writing. I thought maybe English, maybe journalism. And then it was actually my mom who said, public relations. She had met someone at a store opening who was a professional in public relations. She said, I think that's it for you. I hadn't even heard of public relations, right? I was like, well, I don't even know what that is. And so I took classes, declared my major, graduated with a degree in public relations, and then actually went on to work for a hospital so I could keep that healthcare tie. I worked in public relations and marketing for a hospital for a few years. And then lo and behold, got married, moved to Kansas City, and that's what eventually landed me at the Kauffman Foundation. I started as a communications coordinator, held various roles throughout my time here, but it was 2016 where we had a year-long campaign, which would have been Mr. Kauffman's 100th birthday. So we had a year-long campaign to celebrate the EMK 100, and that was really my first experience with branding. with logo design, with taglines, with interweaving all of those messaging and visuals for a year-long campaign. And I just absolutely fell in love with it. I'm a creative at heart. And so it was really, really something that I had passion for. And that was recognized by our vice president of communications at the time. And so after that campaign, he asked me to lead the foundation brand refresh in 2017. And that's the current logo and icons and everything, colors that you see now.
Very cool. I, as a mother who is about to send off her oldest daughter to college, I'm very encouraged to hear that as a young woman, you were listening to your mom's advice. And so I hope my daughter will listen to any advice that I give her as she embarks on adulthood and college.
Mom knows best, I guess. Mom knows best.
I do feel like moms tend to know what kids are good at. Maybe the kid thinks they know what they're good at, but moms really know.
Yes.
Mom as career counselor. Love it. That's going to be the
Yes.
That's going to be the next episode. Mom as career counselor. That's awesome. Well, speaking of counsel, Lacey, so in your time at the Kauffman Foundation, whether it's within the organization or even just based on the organization's mission, you've worked alongside all sorts of leaders in your 18 years, and you've probably seen and observed different leadership styles. And you've got the leader who has a clear vision, and then you have the leaders that figure, and that's why I mentioned the leaders outside the organization. The ones who are figuring it out, particularly in entrepreneurship, the ones who are figuring it out as they go. How has that either way maybe affected the communications work you've done or your experiences?
Yeah, I'd say, throughout my professional career here at the foundation and even not, but even in my personal life, having a clear vision, it really just makes things easier. The nice thing about Dr. Burns Wallace, our CEO currently, when she came in, we set a clear strategic vision in 2024 that by 2035, we strive that Kansas City will become a national model for equitable economic mobility. And that is a vision that we communicate both to the community, but internally. And what's so helpful about that is no matter whether you work in communications or impact or finance, the goal that you're driving toward, and it makes the work just so much more easy and concise when you're all working on that collective path. So that's super, super important. I'd say from a creative aspect, like when I'm leading any type of brand work, it's really important for me to start with what I call a discovery meeting. And that's that meeting where you get together with everyone involved in the project and you just agree upon and you have a full grasp on what you're trying to accomplish, what colors you want to use, what tone, what feel, so that you have that collective goal that you're not only more productive, but you have a better outcome at the end of it.
Yeah, those meetings, when you bring the 12 to 15 questions, if they don't have that clear vision, those are wonderful meetings where you're identifying and generating an awareness around, who's figuring it out as we go, or we don't have it figured out yet. And you have that meeting and they say, this was very instructive. We're going to have to get back to you with some answers.
I know. We've had our share of what I like to call Groundhog Day around here. Just like, redo. I'm like, hold up, discovery meeting.
I love it. I love it. That's one of the things that we've been talking about in the Nonprofit Comms Club this week is we've had several communications people asking, okay, what do you do when you've got a leader on your team who has new idea after new idea after new idea? And I said, you need to I didn't call it a discovery meeting, but I might steal your term, Lacey. That's great. I always say you need to have a meeting with someone on the front end. Don't just have a form for things your leaders are going to want from you. You need to actually sit down and meet with them and figure it out. I love what you said about how much easier it is to work for someone when there's a strategic plan. I had a Nonprofit Comms Club member this morning DM me and say they've got a new CEO coming in. She said the new CEO, one of her first priorities to map out a strategic plan for 5 years. And she's thrilled because so many people in the nonprofit space are working for leaders who are great visionaries, they're ideators, they sometimes struggle with strategy. So let's talk about Kansas City nonprofits, because Kansas City is a town full of nonprofits. In fact, I saw this stat that there's over 12,000, which blows my mind, and yet it doesn't, because I know Kansas City is known for being a very philanthropic city. But 12,000 nonprofits, that stat was crazy. So from a communications perspective, what separates the ones that are thriving from the ones that are just surviving, since you have a lot of touch points with different nonprofits here in Kansas City?
Sure. I mean, honestly, I think it's that clear vision that we just discussed, having that strong sense of purpose. That's the reason that people create buy-in, both in the community and from the staff, if you just have that strong sense of purpose. And I think, thriving nonprofits, they do have that clear sense of identity. They don't just talk about what they do. They make it obvious, really, like why it matters and why they're the ones best positioned to do those things. And I really think that sense of identity, as well as consistency, that's what really helps make a thriving organization. Something we like to do at the foundation is have that core message and then rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. It's the same message over all channels. And it hasn't always been that way here. But I think, we have that statement, we have that 2035 vision. And if we just tell people, that's what makes it stick. That's what makes it stick internally. That's what makes it stick externally. And it builds not only the memory, but it builds the trust that we're solidly working toward this for the next 10 years. And people can understand that, and people can trust that that is really what we're going to focus on. And so, really, when it comes down to it, it's a thriving brand they communicate with clarity, they communicate with consistency. And that's both in the visuals, in your brand visuals, as well as your messaging.
This is a huge pitch for those of you listening who are younger in your career. If you can get good at message discipline, it is going to help your campaign, your strategy succeed. So learn the art of message discipline. I love how you map that out, Lacey.
Same thing over and over, over and over,
Yep.
over and over.
Over and over and over again.
There's something, as we're talking about communications and visibility, so clarity and consistency, there's something else I thought I heard in your statement as well that I want to ask you about, which is, and part of this is tied really to the foundation's mission around advancing entrepreneurship and opportunity. You're clearly passionate about storytelling, but I also thought I heard a third C in there, which is telling these stories with conviction. And so how do you balance, you talked about trust. I heard that through your discussion of trust. So when you're weighing and you're thinking about building this fabric of everything, how are you balancing the storytelling aspects with the strategic impact that's driving the ultimate vision and goal of what you're trying to do?
Sure. So we have a legacy, obviously, in Kansas City. We have a founder who gave his money to support education and entrepreneurship, right? That is our story. And it's a story that we tell. Sure, we have Mr. Kauffman, we have his legacy. We do tell that story, but really at the foundation, it's not about us. And so our storytelling is not focused on the foundation. It is focused on the grantees and how they're using those grant dollars to build capacity, to further advance a project, to create or publish some kind of research that's going to help Kansas City. And we're telling the stories of entrepreneurs who are involved in 1 Million Cups or Kauffman Fast Track. And we're telling the stories of the students or the teachers who are involved in real world learning, who are involved in ProX. Those stories, they're about those who are benefiting from our resources, from our funding. It's not about the foundation. It's about those people who are out in community, who are affecting the community, who are building the betterment of Kansas City. And those stories, that's success to us. Those are the stories that we like to share.
Your storytelling is manifesting the full realization of the strategic impact, right? So you're really manifesting how you're providing that impact by the people you serve. That's the story you're really sharing. Even though Ewing's story is so strong and is really kind of a grounding principle or heartbeat for it all, right? I spent years working with the Stowers. So the Stowers Institute and a lot of the things, very similar kind of heartbeat for the way either Stowers works or American Century works. So very similar.
I'm going to throw myself under the bus here and say I was today years old when I learned that 1 million cups was part of the Kauffman Foundation. So if I should have known that by now as a 15-year Kansas City resident, I apologize. That is not the fault of the communications team. That is the fault of Julie Masson, but I will own it.
We did. We in fact started 1 million cups in 2012. I was at the very first 1 million cups meeting. I feel like I need like a badge of honor. Like I think there were like 12 people maybe there in our building. So yes, 1 million cups.
Very cool.
Is one of our programs.
Julie, you and I should venture out to those. I've been to several. They're fun. I mean, they're fun. There are a couple events that you and I should compare notes on and probably tag team. So yeah.
I remember learning about that during my time when I was renting space at WeWork back in the day. So very cool. So speaking of back in the day, I'm the one that likes to go back. That's why I asked you about your origin story. So let's go back. What's something you've learned about storytelling at the foundation that you wish someone had told you earlier in your career?
So earlier in my career, I couldn't even tell you what storytelling was. I mean, most of the time I was a solo communications professional. I did mostly marketing, not really communications. I was like promoting foot clinics, new doctors, and quite a bit different than what we're doing here. But something that I've come to learn working at the foundation, we do actually have a dedicated person whose like job is storytelling, but really it's a team effort. It is 100% a team effort. The communications department here at the foundation is kind of set up like a mini agency. We have specialists in a lot of areas. We've got graphic designers, brand experts, videographers, photographers, social media, writers, you name it. We've got them all. We're a small but mighty team. And what I have learned, it takes every single one of us to write, to visualize, to produce, and then share that story. And so I'd say I'm a sports mom, and storytelling is really that team sport. You start with that great idea, but it takes every single one of us to make that idea come to life and to share a story that is interesting and effective.
Yeah, because how many times do you, like, take the Super Bowl, for example, you're watching that and there's an incredible ad that plays. Like, it might have one person in the ad, one famous person, and you're like, that person is amazing. And you think it's just that one person, as if that one person came up with all of the ideas to create that ad. In reality, there were so many different people at play. So that's great.
All the little mice scurrying in the back.
All the little mice.
I'm going to dovetail on that question around teamwork, because you oversee a broad mix of communications, marketing efforts, and teams. Like we talked about the creative teams, and you talked about things what it takes to be successful. And maybe aside from the need for a discovery meeting, in a mission-driven organization like yours, what can be some challenges that you encounter that affects your work, and how do you go about maybe overcoming some of those?
We do have, like I mentioned, a broad team here. It is small but mighty, but we do have a bunch of freelancers as well, because there's a lot of work. There's a lot of story to tell. So we do have some graphic designers and videographers, photographers as well that help us out. But the grand scheme of things, it comes back to what we've already discussed. For a mission-aligned organization to have effective brand leadership, you need that clarity, you need that alignment, and you need that discipline or that consistency. So when we're talking clarity, again, we're talking about like, why does this organization exist? Who is it for? Why does it matter? And making sure that we all know that across the team, but across the organization as well. And it looks like alignment, right? The strategic communications team here at the foundation does not own the Kauffman Foundation brand. Yes, we may have the guardrails, right? But we do not own the brand. It is carried by every person in this building and even outside of this building. And so we need to make sure that we have those consistent visuals and those consistent messaging, but that we are communicating those to our fellow associates and making sure that they are aware of them and have that buy-in. So then they're out in community speaking the brand as well. And then externally, it's that rinse and repeat that we talked about again. It's making sure that people have that same message, that same visual identity, so they have that recognition and they know that no matter where they engage, that's the Kauffman Foundation.
The word you use that I absolutely just love, particularly when Julie sees this all the time, but we work with a number of nonprofits. It's not just the awareness, but it's that buy-in. So the notion of effectively driving stewardship throughout the entire organization, where it's not just the role of comms or marketing, but everybody that's within an mission-driven organization. It's really a change management activity where they're taking that conviction, that buy-in, and so they can effectively do what they need to do on behalf of the organization. That word just warmed my heart, I guess.
So. Alignment. I'm hearing you speak into the word of alignment, which literally I had a boss who said, Julie, your responsibility leading communications is to help our team stay aligned. And it's one of my all-time favorite words when it comes to communications and leadership.
Yes. I like to say that, as communications professionals, we provide the tools, but I'm not the one out in community talking to grantees. We have impact officers who are on the front lines speaking with other nonprofits all of the time. And I need to make sure that they have the tools to make sure they're communicating about the foundation like I would like them to communicate about the foundation. And they're great at it, but we put the time and effort into that.
They're great at it because you've prepped them well and you've done a phenomenal job at serving your team well.
Oh,
so
thank you.
I'm going to give you that pat on the back that I know you probably don't want to give yourself.
I like to say I wear like my brand police hat, right? Like,
yes.
I got to go out there and set the guardrails and be like, okay, but maybe not that color.
And maybe not that word. How about this word? So another thing you said speaks directly to my heart. The drumbeat I will never stop banging is that communications is a strategic function of an organization. It's not a service department. And so what I have seen is that the people, the communicators, the marketers who are strategic thinkers, they are really good at recognizing the leaders who think like that. They're good at recognizing the leaders who are strategic thinkers, planners. They're not just the ideators, they're not just the visionaries. So when I learned about, I'm going to have you talk about this Uncommon Leader Visionary Award that the foundation recently launched. I was so excited about it because of this very thing. The communications leaders at various nonprofits, they know what good leadership looks like. And so when you get to, I've worked for both. I've worked for nonprofit leaders who were absolutely incredible. They led with vision, they led with strategy, they kept the team aligned, they kept us on message, they kept us on goals. And I've worked for nonprofit leaders that are the opposite of that. And it makes all the difference in your nonprofit success. So talk to us about the Uncommon Leader Visionary Award. What was the vision behind it? And why in the world is the Kauffman Foundation giving such an amazing award to an individual and the organization? I'm just blown away by this.
Yes. The Uncommon Leader Awards, it's actually a series of awards. We launched for the first time last year with our Uncommon Leader Impact Award. And so that Impact Award, it recognized non-C-suite individuals in the nonprofit sector in Kansas City and really lifted them up and recognized them about how they were influencing change and how they were impacting the Kansas City community. This year, we are recognizing the Visionary Award. And the Visionary Award it launched at the end of April. So the Visionary Award launched at the end of April, and it recognizes those executive leaders at 501c3 public charities in Kansas City. And the reason we're recognizing these visionary leaders is because, like Mr. Kauffman, they are building inspiring and impactful legacies within the community. And so we're using this tagline as part of our campaign. That's make more possible. And I really think that stuck with us because this Visionary Award, it's recognizing individuals who then leaving a legacy for others to build on. So it spotlights those leaders who are creating change and creating results across their organizations, across their community that others can then pick up and carry on that legacy.
That's so great. And talk a little bit about the financial award that comes with this, because I think the fact that the Kauffman Foundation is giving an individual who's leading well, giving them a significant financial award, what that says to the rest of the Kansas City community is that, hey, we want to have excellent nonprofits here because everyone knows a city doesn't just need good government, good businesses. They also need good nonprofits. Our society as a whole is dependent on nonprofits that are going to serve the communities. So if we are raising the standard for what leadership looks like in our nonprofit sector, then I think that will cause other people to say, okay, if I can lead well, I'm going to be able to lead my organization better. We're going to be able to succeed more, accomplish our vision, and look at what that does for our city. So talk more about the financial award, because I think that's super compelling.
Sure. There are two separate pieces to the financial award. And this is another way that we can recognize these nonprofit leaders, aside from just our general grant making. So this is an individual award, part one, $75,000 goes directly to that individual, that nonprofit visionary leader, to do with what they choose. It could be personal, it could be professional, whatever they choose. So $75,000 goes to that individual, and then $150,000 goes directly to the organization. And again, it's for them to use with whatever they decide to use it for, but it's $150,000.
That is setting the bar high. That is calling to our nonprofit leaders saying, hey, this is something that we want to award you with when you serve with excellence. So I love it.
Yeah. And Julie, like you said earlier, Julie, the nice thing is people in the community, they're the ones who know who these visionary leaders are, right? And so that's why the nomination is open. It's open for the entire month of May. It closes June 1st. And anyone can go on Kauffman.org and nominate an executive leader who they find deserving.
I love it. I've already heard from 3 different nonprofits this week who told me, Julie, we've nominated our executive whatever. So I love that people are taking action, starting to nominate.
It's amazing that the Kauffman Foundation's doing this. We'll make sure that we include a link to the show notes so people can get more details, understand the requirements of the award, because you mentioned it's at the leadership level. So I'm sure, anybody that's an executive director at an organization would qualify, but you have all levels of leadership within organizations. So I'm sure there's more details on the application process. So we'll include that in the show notes as well. It's phenomenal that the Kauffman Foundation's doing this. Yeah, so generous.
So generous.
So with that, boy, it's going to be underwhelming potentially from our standpoint to go to such a generous gift to our little new segment, but we're going to still try this and have a little bit of fun. You okay with that, Lacey?
Yes, sounds great.
Okay, maybe you'll throw out a nonprofit leader that you might be hedging your bets on for the award. I don't know, but we've got this new segment where we ask 4 quick questions of our guest, and with the idea of a subtle or not so subtle response. And Julie and I'll kind of alternate. But this first one, we know the answer really is Julie. So we're looking for some other response other than Julie. We just did another one of these this week, and the first response was my favorite was Julie. So I'm not going to lead in with this question every segment and then have it be Julie.
I know. It cannot be that.
It cannot be Julie or it's saying something, Julie, and you're phenomenal on LinkedIn.
I'm going to change the question. So
we're going to change the question. We're going to change the question, but we've already told Lacey the question. So Lacey, who's your favorite follow on LinkedIn right now?
100% Julie. And
Julie.
Honestly, it has to be someone in branding. That's really, when I'm reaching out on social media, it's like, those are the things that I'm kind of interested in. So it's like those big names like Guy Kawasaki or Armin Vitt, who's with a brand new conference under consideration. Like, I love that conference. And so it's people like that.
Oh, very good. That's awesome.
That makes sense. I follow a lot of nonprofit communicators, so you follow the brand people. What's one communication trend you're excited about?
Okay, this is really nice to see. We're following many, many years of like logos that are stark and modern and those sleek fonts. I'm seeing those kind of fall to the wayside, and we're getting more like custom typefaces that have a lot of like movements and fun angles. It's really like adding some excitement in the brand world. And so I'm loving seeing those. I subscribe to a newsletter every week, and I get kind of like, here's fresh new rebrands. Cool. And I'm like, oh, look at them. They're like exciting again.
You used to be able to say, ooh, shiny penny, but now that pennies don't exist anymore, you just...
I'm like such a font nerd. I'm like, ooh, look at the fonts. It's like curvy or angled. Or...
Shiny. Yes, shiny. That's how I am with new tech all the time. So you mentioned clarity a lot in our conversation. So I've got to ask you this. Go-to productivity habit.
Oh, calendar blocking.
Oh, yes.
For sure. That way, like if I have to work on something, my calendar's blocked and someone actually has to physically come ask me if they can schedule over it. So that's a big one. I work out midday every day.
Oh, we're going to need to talk about this later. I don't know how this
We're
works.
lucky enough to have a gym here at the foundation, which is great. But midday, I disappear for like an hour. I work out and then I can come back to my afternoon and I'm like, my mind is free. I'm ready to start back up. So that is huge for me. And then I'd also say standing. I stand at my desk.
That's what I just did halfway through this podcast. I got to stand.
Well, we all got new standing desks. We renovated kind of over the end of last year, the entire like interior of the foundation, and we all got stand-up desks. And so I made this like bet with myself. I said, I'm going to see how long until I actually sit in my desk chair. And it is May 6th. I have yet to sit in my desk chair.
Word.
Like if I can move and like kind of fidget and it just keeps my brain awake, I feel like I get more done.
Wow.
I've had to buy a lot of new shoes. Like
Wearing out the shoes. That's the one downside to this. Folks, you've got not just one, but 2, 3, the trifecta of productivity habits there out of Lacey. That was amazing, Lacey. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, last question. What is one word you think every strong brand should embody?
Authenticity.
Oh, yeah.
100% authenticity. Know who you are and put that out in the world.
Very good. That will always resonate. I think
Excellent.
I will 100% agree with that.
Likewise. Because if you're not doing that, you can, whole host of reasons why you can be in business, but you have a true calling in business if you're not being authentic about it. Lacey, this has been amazing. Anything else you'd like to mention that we may have missed?
Well, one, don't forget to nominate. June 1st. I know we talked about that. I'd say something else is we do actually have another thing that is coming out. It's launching in May 19th. It's the Kauffman Indicators of Entrepreneurship. It is a series of entrepreneurship data that looks at the trends of entrepreneurship in the United States. And this year marks 30 years of data. So we have a report and a website, actually 2 reports, one on national, one on state, and a website that is launching on May 19th that will have all of that data.
Okay. Is that something that you did last year as well? Or
We have taken a few years off from actually publishing and looking at the data. Our last published report was in 2001, but we're kind of revamping it. The data is there. So we are back on the data train and producing those reports every May.
Excellent. So what we'll do, folks, if you're listening, because this episode will come out before May 19th, it will probably be dropping on social around May 19th. We'll go ahead and put a link to the old report, but just know that it'll get refreshed shortly thereafter. So yeah, that's an amazing resource for people who work with entrepreneurs. I know a lot of folks I talk to that work in the space, Julie and I do work with entrepreneurs and help serve entrepreneurs. So that data will be very, very helpful to them.
Super helpful.
Lacey, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for being so gracious with your time and for sharing the information about such a generous award that the Kauffman Foundation is going to be helping facilitate here in the next several weeks.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Bye, Lacey.
Bye.
If you found value in today's episode, check us out on our website, CultivatEDMarketer.com. You'll also be able to subscribe to us, rate us, and leave us a comment on your favorite podcast platform, such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. Remember, a garden of opportunity grows with CultivatED Marketer.